you've got two possibilities on maps going down. You can use map 3 in your packet.
Oh, yeah.
Or map 4, or you could use the highway map. And I assume everybody except certain people know how to read a highway map. Okay, so I won't have to tell you what page to turn to. On the highway map is we're starting from Lexington. Hopefully, the loudspeaker on.
Yep. It's on.
Yes. It's working.
Yep.
Okay. Hopefully, you've all read your Perryville issue, so you know you can sleep on the way down. Not working?
You're on.
I'm on? Okay. You can sleep on the way down, but if you didn't read your blue and gray, you'll probably not know where you're at when we arrive there. Because the armies will have to get here, and to get here, they're going to start back down in Alabama and Mississippi. So, because that is where General Bragg's army is at the beginning of he has just taken command of what is the Army of the Mississippi. That's the army that most of you know is the Army of Tennessee, but it will not become the Army of Tennessee until mid-November 1862. It is still the Army of the Mississippi, as the battle it had fought the Battle of Shiloh, where we were last year. And when we left them last year, you remember that General Beauregard, General Beauregard was in command of the Army of the Mississippi, and he was on President Davis's S list. Davis was not an admirer of Beauregard, and Beauregard made a bad mistake in the second week of June 1863 when he went on sick leave without getting the permission. Being an Army commander, he should get his permission and authority to go on sick leave from the Secretary of War or the President of the Confederacy. And if they don't like you, that's a good way to get them to get rid of you and put somebody they want in. So General Beauregard was getting only the permission of his chief sergeant of the Army of the Mississippi, goes on leave to take the waters over at Gladden Springs, Alabama, because he has a strep throat and wants to recover. And since Davis wants to get rid of him, Davis accuses him of abandoning the Army and naming General Braxton Bragg command of the Army. That means Bragg is promoted from Major General to General, and we remember General Bragg from Shiloh well, so we don't have to go into any introduction and reference to who General Bragg is. Now, the other Confederate Army, and this is going to be what's going to give the Confederates big trouble and cost them the campaign that starts so brilliantly. There's a second Confederate Army, the Army of posted in East Tennessee under the command of Major General E. Kirby Smith. E. Kirby Smith's troops are concentrated in and around Knoxville at the time, where he has his headquarters. Now, the Union have now, of course, we left them last year, for the ones who were with us, we left them in possession of Corinth, and they had not pursued very vigorously, and and they had halted while General Halleck, the general-in-chief of the superior commander of an army group, had halted to secure his control of West Tennessee, Middle Tennessee, and looked to overrunning and driving the Confederates out of East Tennessee, which is the highest priority of the President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln. So he will immediately tell General Buell, remember him from last year, he is a Democrat, he is a McClellan, somewhat of a McClellan clone, and he will take his army of the Ohio, and he will leave Corinth, and he is to march eastward and secure Chattanooga, Tennessee. He is to rebuild the Memphis and Charleston Railroad as he does, to supply his army as he moves eastward. The Army of the Mississippi, commanded by, was no longer commanded after June 26th, will no longer be commanded by Mr. Girardi's favorite Union general. That is General John Pope, because he will be called to Washington on the 26th day of June to take charge of the newly constituted Army of Virginia. The army of the General Grant gets a big break because remember he was second in command to General Halleck and was debating resigning, and all of a sudden he finds himself back in command of the Army of the Tennessee as General Thomas reverts to commanding to being Buell's number 2, and the force that is moving east on to capture Chattanooga. Grant is to secure the area in secure West Tennessee and begin operations possibly to support a thrust against Vicksburg. Bragg will start off brilliantly, like the second coming of the Lord, when he will show that the railroad is much faster than rebuilding railroads, and he will ship the Army of the Mississippi by rail from Tupelo, Mississippi, by way of Meridian and Mobile. One group going by Mobile, catching a ferry boats across Mobile Bay and on to Montgomery, Alabama, and thence to Atlanta, Georgia. And by the 24th day of August, when Buell is still 30 miles west of Chattanooga, General Bragg's men are arriving in Chattanooga. Bragg will have sent his artillery and wagon trains cross country from Tupelo to Chattanooga. Prior to his deal, Bragg meets with General Kirby Smith, and they are going to be co-equals. So Bragg is a general, and Buell and Kirby Smith is a major general. They're going to cooperate. When they come into contact with each other, that will mean that Kirby Smith will lose some autonomy. Meanwhile, Kirby Smith, on the 17th day of August, which is 9 days before General Bragg's vanguard arrives in East Tennessee, General Kirby Smith will leave Knoxville. Now, the Union troops in Kentucky are principally the only effective force in Kentucky is General George Washington Morgan, a Democrat, who commands at Cumberland Gap, which is the shortest way if you're going from East Tennessee back into Kentucky. The Confederates are very enthused with this expedition because John Hunt Morgan has spent a good part of July and into early August in the bluegrass country. He had visited Lexington. You could have met him if you were living in Lexington at that time. In a raid that had taken him all the way from Middle Tennessee to the bluegrass region and back. And he comes back enthused. He talks to the people, and they tell him that the people in Kentucky are lusting to throw up, get that despot's heel off thy shore, using the words of Maryland by Maryland, and that despot's heel that's on that shore are the minions of Abraham Lincoln and the Republican-leaning government of Kentucky. And he says, if you just appear into Kentucky as if by magic, 20,000 Kentuckians will rise. They will greet us with open arms. And when the Confederates move northward, they're going to take many, many wagons loaded with 20,000 stand of arms, accoutrements and such, to give to the Kentuckians. And Kentucky will welcome their liberators. So Kirby Smith is going to start on the 17th. He is going to send General Carter through his little page Stevenson, who you guys met 2-3 years ago in Vicksburg, with his division moving directly against Cumberland Gap to keep General George Washington Morgan and his 10,000 men occupied. While the division commanded by Harry Heath, long before Gettysburg fame, with his division, is going to move through move to cross into Kentucky, about 40 miles west of Cumberland Gap to Big Gap, and Kirby Smith with his other two divisions will go to Rogersville. They thus will outflank the General George Washington Morgan, and without firing a shot, his 10,000 men evacuate Cumberland Gap and retreat to the mountains of eastern Kentucky all the way northward and will arrive back and cross the Ohio River near Ashland. So they've given up eastern Kentucky without firing a shot, because they've been outflanked on a position and rushed to take command of a group of troops, most of them newly organized regiments, all of them except one from Indiana, who are being assembled to defend the bluegrass region, as William Nelson. Now, William Nelson is a former sailor. He's very close to Abraham Lincoln. Your Chicago Bears would do better if they had a man like him as linebacker. Maybe you'd get in more playoffs than you get in. You'd be back. He was playing linebacker for you. You'd be back in the great days of the Bears back in 1940, 41 in that period. And these 300 pounds, but not many 300-pounders, were all bone and muscle, 6'6" tall, very aggressive, very opinionated, and doesn't suffer fools gladly. And as we will find out on Sunday, the Confederates will come down on the 29th, down off Big Hill into the Bluegrass region, and on the 30th, in the Battle of Richmond, Kentucky. Of course, on that same day, Girardi's favorite Union general is getting laced in the Battle of Manassas, finding out that those guys in the East play a little different than out West. So you're going to have a double whammy put on the Yankees on the 30th of August. the rout. And this is the most complete victory the Confederates will ever score during the war. Their force of as we'll find out, of Nelson's is driven from 3 successive positions. Nelson is temporarily captured. He gets away. He's very unhappy with Indianans and brags how he cut down some cowardly Indianans that are fleeing from the battle. But so we X1 Union Army, the small army of Kentucky commanded by William Nelson, and William Nelson and the Confederates march into Lexington, just like you did yesterday, on the 2nd day of September. And soon General Stevenson will join them, and on the 4th they will occupy Frankfort, Kentucky. They will send a column they will send Stevenson and Cincinnati, and soon Alfonso Taft, William Howard's father, and all those other fat cats in Cincinnati are very busy throwing up earthworks south of Cincinnati and south of Newport. So you've got panic in Cincinnati as the Confederates will advance to within, at least their cavalry, to within about 10 miles of Newport. The infantry will be probably about 20 miles behind them, but they're causing a hell of a lot of headaches for the United States government and Mr. Lincoln. You have the Confederates at the same time in Frankfort, and Bragg has started northward. So they're sending in, they're scraping the barrel with people that have never fired a round, and they're assembling a new army to be commanded by William Nelson in Louisville, to defend Louisville as terror grips Louisville, where the Confederates have Shelbyville, about Taylorsville, and Shelbyville about 20 miles outside of Louisville. You got real consternation. Now let's back to General Bragg. Now remember, the Confederates enter Lexington on the 2nd. They're in Frankfort on the 4th of September. General Bragg, by this time, with his army, will cross the Tennessee River at Chattanooga and start north. His men cross the river upstream from Chattanooga and as far as Harrison's Bar, cross Walden's Ridge, and earn this Waxhaw. Then across the Cumberland Plateau, and then into Sparta as they come north. Now moving on an exterior arc, Buell has canceled his advance on Chattanooga, and he's moving northward, keeping his troops between Bragg's army and Nashville. General Thomas has been rushed to Nashville as consternation grips the Yankees. Bragg decides not to go demonstrate against Nashville and bypass Nashville, and the first thing they know, the Confederates across Hardee's men are crossing the Cumberland River at Gallatin, and short distance above Gallatin, Bishop Polk is, and presto chango, they are in Kentucky. By the 14th day of Kentucky, they have reached Glasgow, Kentucky. And if you look at your map, either at your highway map or look at your map on page 4, you can see when they're in Glasgow, Kentucky, they've got a straight shot into Louisville. And Buell, of course, has been snookered, and he leaving behind Nigley to hold Nashville and start in pursuit. And so the Confederates on the 14th, having sent sent General Chalmers with his Mississippi Brigade to get the surrender of the Yankee force holding the bridge across the Greene River at Munfordville, commanded at the time by John Taylor Wilder of Greensburg, Indiana, a 32-year-old ironmonger from Greensburg. The Confederates will, Chalmers will call on, supported by Scott's cavalry, we'll hear more about, who would belong to Kirby Smith's command, will call on the Confederates to surrender Munfordville. Wilder will refuse. The Confederates will make a bad decision and make a frontal attack. It'll be very bad for Chalmers and his Mississippians because they'll get a bloody nose. With a bloody nose there and Buell at Bowling Green. Somebody told me they saw in a good museum at Bowling Green. Bragg now moves his entire army to Munfordville, and Wilder has now been reinforced, but new commanders arrived. 4,000 Yankees are there, and Wilder is a little naive, and he will meet with General Buckner, and Buckner will tell him, "You're surrounded. And I'll show you how dangerous the situation is." Points out the Confederate batteries, and Wilder surrenders on the 17th day of September. On the 17th day of September, General Lee's invasion of the North has dreadful press at the Battle of Antietam. But out here in Kentucky on that day, 4,000 Yankees surrendered to General Bragg, and Bragg is still between Buell and Louisville, much closer to Louisville. He has a straight shot into Louisville, but he takes a position of Rivet Knob, and he becomes concerned. These Kentuckians aren't doing what Colonel Morgan had said. They're not rallying by the hundreds and by the thousands and the 10,000s to the Confederate cause. They begin to, Bragg gets disillusioned on them and decides maybe if we can put a Confederate government in Frankfort and our rough government will pass a conscription law, the Kentuckians, we can force them into the army that they're not rallying for. So forgetting its favorable position between Buell and Louisville, Bragg, where Buell will have to attack him, Bragg moves his men to Bardstown. That opens the way for Buell to get his troops back into Louisville, which he will arrive with his vanguard on the 4th of September. So the Yankees have won the race to Louisville as General Bragg leaves General Polk in charge of the army, and he proceeds to Frankfort, where he meets Kirby Smith. Kirby Smith with a good deal of his troops with him at Frankfort. And on the 4th day of October, they're going to inaugurate Richard Hawes as the governor of Kentucky to replace the former governor, Governor Johnson, the Confederate governor, who had lost his life at the Battle of Shiloh. And hardly do they swear Governor Hawes into office, and all of them are dressed up. I can see Colonel Gibbs, Colonel Falkenberg, Colonel Girardi in their fanciest uniforms to attend the inaugural ball that night. The only one to be happy is Ray Radovich, who will find out that she's not going to have to go to the ball with Gibbs that night. Because hardly before he gets well into their inaugural speech, they'll hear the distant boom of cannon fire from west of Frankfort. Why does this happen? Well, Buell has arrived in Louisville, and he gets a double whammy on the 28th. First comes orders from the War Department General Halleck is now, since the 14th day of July, has been General-in-Chief of the Union Army. Due to his victories won for him by Grant and the strategic success won for him by Grant and Buell out in Shiloh, Lincoln has brought in General Halleck to be his General-in-Chief. Since he had relieved General McClellan as General-in-Chief back on the 10th day of March, there had been no General-in-Chief. But Lincoln doesn't know it, but as he's soon going to realize, he's got a chief first, not a general, in General Halleck. And Halleck will send off a message to General Buell that in the event of the Confederates having interposed between him, he has to turn over command of the army to General Thomas. The army that will soon total about 55,000 men, about half of them people who have been in the army less than a month, who have arrived in and around Louisville, which they're busily fortifying. Now at this time, as we get to the 28th day of September, the Union are assembling an army in and around Louisville. General Bragg is meeting with Kirby Smith. General Polk with Bragg's army is at Bardstown, where they've been since they opened the gate for Buell to get back to Louisville. And Kirby Smith's men are having a good time in the Bluegrass region and making the poor people up in Cincinnati work hard, going up earthworks. Well, on his other whammy he gets on that day that he learns he's going to turn over the command to General Thomas is he loses one of his senior officers. Now the two senior officers are now Jefferson Columbus Davis, and I wouldn't advise you to kid him about his name, about his middle name, about his name being Jefferson Davis, because he has a trigger temper, and he may be only about 5'7", but he's wiry, and he was on sick leave. And he had been in Indiana. He's a Kentuckian by birth, but in Indiana by choice. And when he's there, he reports to General Nelson, and Nelson says, "I don't want you. You go report to Governor, report to Horatio Wright over the Department of Ohio." And he reports to Wright. Wright says, "I don't need to hear. Why don't you go back? I want you to go back and report report to I think I've got a senior moment now. General Nelson. Report to General Nelson. Now when he goes back to report to Nelson, General just crossed the Kentucky River. Notice what a deep channel it flows. You've got a plateau on each side, it's bounded by riprap. He takes with him Oliver P. Morton. Now, Oliver P. Morton saw life as Oliver P. Throckmorton, but he's a politician, and he can see all the problems he could have with the name Throckmorton, so he had changed his name to Morton. Now he is a short, round man. He's not, but very close to President Lincoln. So in the Gold House, which was not where it is now, the Gold House that day was about a mile east of the House, which is kind of a ritzy hotel today in Louisville. Davis and the governor have a meeting with Nelson. Now, So they have a discussion, and it's not a friendly discussion. Nelson wonders why he's back there. Ordered him out, and finally the words get hotter, and Davis rolls up a calling card, sits it on his thumb and uses his forefinger to snap it off, and it hits Nelson in his broad chest. So Nelson grabs him and tells him, "You do that, I'll he says, "You do that again, you little puppy, I'll slap your face." And then he turns to Governor Morton and he said, "Did you come here to insult me too?" Morton thinks better of it with this enraged giant talking to him, and he says no. And Nelson starts to walk out the door. Well, Davis gets a pistol from an aide, calls to Nelson. Nelson turns around and takes a ball in his giant chest near the front. His last, as they try to comfort him, he lives 30 minutes, and he will tell the people around, get a priest, I want to be baptized, but he's dead. Davis will be arrested, but he will walk. The Louisville people, the Kentucky people decide they don't want to touch it. It should be a military case, and the military case, because of the power of the governor of Indiana, will not touch it. But Davis will not be in the battle of Perryville. Now, meanwhile, they've had a meeting with Thomas and Buell, and they decide the situation is different than it was when Halleck ordered Buell to turn the command over to Thomas, because the Army has reached Louisville and the threat is not as critical. And they will telegram both Thomas and Buell that the situation is different, and the Union Army is there, it's getting reorganized, and Buell should remain in command. So Halleck decides that yes, you're right, and Buell will in command. But now Buell is in a problem. He's lost one of his senior commanders, and he's ready to take the field. So they have also recovering from sick leave is Charles Gilbert. Now Charles Gilbert is a captain in science rank. He had been wounded at Wilson's Creek. And but they think he has a brevet rank, which he doesn't. So he will be given a promotion without hearing it with the War Department, or the President, or the United States Senate would have to confirm it, and he's going to march out of, because of a bureaucratic slip-up, is going to march out as commander of one of the three wings that the Army of the Ohio is going to be divided in. One will be the third wing of the Army, or Corps, if you want to call it that, commanded by Charles Gilbert, with 3 divisions in it. There will be the Second Corps, commanded by Charles Crittenden, who we met last year at Idaho, the son of former Senator Crittenden of Kentucky, and brother of George. We'll meet George tomorrow. George is a drunk, but he's a West Point graduate and fighting for the Confederates. Thomas, who had been in the Mexican War as a staffer, is commanding and had fought well at Shiloh, who command the Second Corps. And commanding the First Corps will be a man we met last year at Shiloh, a West Point graduate of 1852, who was somewhat of a lightweight at West Point and was known as Chucklehead among his fellow cadets at West Point, and he's still a lightweight, but they don't know it yet. So he will command the First Corps. But one of his divisions will be placed under Joshua Hill, and when Buell leaves Louisville on the 1st, the division commanded by Joshua Sill will advance due eastward through Shepherdstown toward Frankfort, where the Confederates are preparing for big things. I can see Colonel Gibbs, as he knows he's going to attend the ball that night, getting his best uniform out, and the other three columns will move out of Louisville, taking roads that are going to converge on Bardstown. Three columns. Louisville toward Bardstown, where the Confederates are. Bragg is then, now you know where those cannon shots came on the 4th. That was, of course, the Confederates under Pat Claiborne deployed to the west of Frankfort, skirmishing with Sill's men. So there will not be a ball. Sorry, Gibbs. You're not going to the ball that night. You're going to be getting out of Frankfort as fast as if your new governor. Well, it will be like the Winter King in the Middle Ages of the Holy Roman Empire. So that means, and then Bragg will send a message to Polk, who is commanding his army. The enemy advance southward on Bardstown. Polk is to put his Bragg's army in motion and move it eastward on what is now President 150 from Bardstown through Springfield and on through Perryville, which no one had probably heard of at that time, unless you're Kentuckian, and at Harrisburg, they will be in a position to operate better with General Kirby Smith's men, who are going to reform and take position at Versailles. You can find Versailles on your map. I think Versailles will be to the west of, to the east of us. We'll go through Silvesa. Now, Silvesa is where the Confederates at this time plan to fight the battle for Kentucky. With Polk bringing his men up from Harrisburg, joining with Kirby Smith coming from Versailles. And yes, it is Versailles. It's not Versailles. You better go to France. And that's where the big battle is to take place for Kentucky. As the Federals arrive, as they approach Bardstown, they find that the enemy has fallen back towards Springfield. Now as Buell moves westward, eastward, both armies have a big problem. Kentucky is in a drought to end all droughts. It hasn't rained for weeks and going into months. Water is very short. Streams that normally have considerable water in, such as Doctor's Ranch or Doctor's Creek or Doctor's Fort of the Chaplain River, has only a few ponds in it, and it has green scum. wells are dry, springs that are never dry. The fields are parched, the corn is withered and withered. So as they move forward, General McCook's troops will move on the left by way of the Perryville Road. The main column with which fuel will be traveling, along with Gretna's troops, will be moving along the main road to Springfield, where Tom Lincoln and Mary Hanks got their marriage license. Quite a find to believe it, because when Dr. Warren finally found it in the courthouse of Washington County, because that put to shame all those people that claimed that Abraham Lincoln was a bastard, and his parents had never married. So that's all. They have the original file there in the Washington County courthouse in Springfield. So Bragg will, and the Confederates have established their major supply depot in Kentucky at Bryantsville. Bryantsville is Bryant's. Bryantsville is located to the north. If you're looking on, it is to the northeast of Danville. Danville is about 10 miles due east of Perryville, and about 10 to 12 miles northeast of Perryville is Harrisburg. Now the road we're going south on, you're going to see Solvisa. Have we skirted it yet?
No.
This road goes right through.
We've already passed.
So when Solvisa is where Bragg plans to fight the battle. Not important except for that. The Confederates, covered by Wharton's rear guard and Wheeler, have retreated through Springfield. Now, en route up here, Bragg made an enemy. Long 2 days after the Battle of Perryville, he had taken Forrest's command away from him. First of the 3 times he'll do it. And given it to Colonel Wharton of the 8th Texas, and sent Forrest back to recruit another. 7th, General Bragg of October is in Harrisburg. Learning that the enemy is pressing rather rapidly eastward from Springfield, General Hardee has halted his troops at Perryville. In view of the pressure put on General Hardee by the Federals as the Federals advanced eastward from Springfield, General Bragg tells General Polk, "I want you to take your corps, the divisions of Generals Pat Anderson and Generals Hard Drinking Ben Frank Cheatham, and I want you to return to
There it is.
Harrisburg."
On the left there.
All right, coming up on our left. Here is something I never noticed before, probably because I've been by it, but there was a National Guard unit from Mercer County, Kentucky, and you would not want to be in it. because you remember they called up the they declared a national emergency in September 1940 and called out the National Guard. And this unit from Mercer County, Kentucky, has the unfortunate position of being sent to the Philippines. And when the battling bastards of Bataan surrendered, they were surrendered, and thus they become guests of the Japanese and participate in the Bataan Death March. So that's a National Guard unit you would not want to be in WW. All right, now as we go in, are we bypassing? We're going right. Are we going right? We're going. All right, as we go through, we're going to have an Episcopal church on our left, where General Polk on the 9th will hold services. That's the day after. He will leave here on the evening of the 7th to take charge of those Yankees that are approaching Perryville. When General Polk gets to Perryville, he will have 3 divisions. Butler's division of Hardee's command, Pat Anderson's of Hardee's command, and he will have the division of Ben Cheatham, 17,000 men. The Confederate intelligence is not working well, and there are really 55,000 Yankees closing in on Perryville. The historic district is to our left, and there you can see the Episcopal Church's steeple. Very Episcopalian to our left.
There's the.
It's going to be immediately to our
There's that tree.
left is where where
tree.
Polk is going to have services for the deceased on the 9th. Bragg remains here on the evening of the 7th. Now, Polk's orders are to attack the enemy, and you will beat him. That shows the lack of reality. They believe that Polk with 17,000 men will outnumber the 55,000 men that are closing on. And when you beat the enemy, you will move northward to Salvisa, where I will be with Kirby Smith coming up from Versailles, and along with Polk's other division commanded by Jones Withers, we will fight the battle. When Bragg is up in the morning, he feels good. Just like if you're driving a But he is not feeling good when he waits till 7:30 and he hears no firing. He hears no firing. That must be General Bragg. He hears no firing. So, accompanied by his staff, he starts for Perryville and will arrive about 10:30 in Perryville. General Bragg. There has been fighting, but there.
To the left. Left.
And since 6 a.m. in the morning, there has been skirmishing and fairly heavy fighting. So naturally, Bragg is not very happy. Polk, he'd also received a message from Polk that Polk was going to attack the enemy, but he finds nothing really happening. The Union halted their advance, and at the time Bragg arrives about 10:30 at the Crawford House. Now let us go back to the Federals as they move through this withered and blasted landscape on the 7th. Now remember, moving along the road from to Springfield, 150 is out in front. The division commanded, the corps commanded by General Gilbert. At a point about 4 miles west of Perryville, there's a road turning southward to Lebanon. Road moving southward to Lebanon.
We're in the Perryville Road.
Are we on 150?
This is 68. We'll come into downtown Perryville. Put it down the street. Okay, so keep on going.
The Federals approach the Dorsey House, 3.5 miles west of Perryville. There's a road turning southward that leads to the Lebanon Pike. Looking for water, General Crittenden, with whom General Thomas is traveling, turns his 3-division corps into that road and reaches the Lebanon Pike. Now the Lebanon Pike, when it leaves Perryville in a southwesterly direction. So on the evening, looking for water down on the Lebanon Pike, General Gilbert's corps will go into camp. On the evening of the 7th, up at the Backville Road, coming into Perryville from the north and west, and it gets about 7 miles from Perryville. General goes into camp. And going into camp on the Springfield Road, 150, about just west of the Doctor's Fork crossing on high ground, about 2.5 miles west of Perryville, goes into camp Charles Gilbert's corps of 3 divisions. So on the nightfall and that day, there's been an attempt by Buell is a harsh disciplinarian. And there had been an attempt of a soldier to assassinate him. When they fire at him, he misses, spooks Buell's horse, and Buell is thrown from his horse. So Buell will set up his headquarters in the Dorsey House, 3.5 miles east of Perryville. The house no longer stands, and it's on the northwest corner of the direct road going up from the Springfield Road up to the Dixville intersection. A very important place in the Battle of Perryville. Since the army since McCook is flagged, Buell wants his men to halt, and he plans for a battle on the 9th. After he wants McCook to advance, come in closer to Perryville, come up in contact with Gilbert on the left, and they will fight the battle for Kentucky at Perryville on the 9th. Buell is Bragg is looking to fight an engagement on the 8th, but the big battle will take place on the 9th up at Salmesa. You will not know because of a weather condition in which, in rolling hill country, when you have a wind from the opposite direction, you will have a shadow. And the shadow can carry wind, will keep you from knowing when a big battle is on. And this is going to be such a shadow is going to take place, and you will not know that a great battle is raging, and will rage from about 2 o'clock till about almost 6 o'clock, and it's 3 miles from him, and he does not know it. On the night, so we placed where the Federals are. Now, so they're in 3 different camps, scattered a considerable distance apart. Now, the Confederates, where are they encamped? Well, when General Polk arrives with hard drinking, hard fighting, womanizing General Cheatham, he has all these attributes that Gibbs possesses: hard drinking, hard fighting, womanizing. But he's, well, like Gibbs, he's a bachelor. He'll get married after the war, but unlike Gibbs, Jack Daniels will never ask Gibbs to endorse him. So Cheatham's men will go into camp on the ridge just to the west of Perryville and south of the road to Spring. In fact, Maney's brigade camps in a cemetery, the old cemetery, which soldiers look as a bad omen. Well, we're coming in, and we're going to enter Vietnam. This division, General Polk, General Cheatham, Daniel Donaldson's, A.P. Stewart's, and George. To his officers, his cavalry, with about 1,000 men of mesmerizing General Britain and keeping Britain's people out of action on the Lebanon Road. Now, beyond these hills to our right is the Chaplin River. The Chaplin River carries very little water because of the drought. It carries more water than Doctor's Fort. Bull Run, yes, there is a Bull Run here. On your map, you'll notice the detail map. Bull Run is going to flow into Doctor's Fort, just above the point where the Backville Road goes. Now, the battle will be precipitated by the need for water. Now, an equine needs 9 gallons of water a day. That's a hell of a lot of water. And naturally, when Gilbert's command goes into camp, they are only some of them are within a half a mile of Doctor's Fort, and the equines can smell water, and they're very, very unhappy equines. being dumb brutes, they don't have to. Soldiers can maybe be more worried about their sergeants than they are individuals. The dumb brutes act up very badly. So they're going to send some meadows from the 11th, 10th Indiana for to reconnoiter, and then under the cover of darkness, they're going to see that they are pools of water.